Our world is full of reasons and ways for people to be estranged from each other. Friends, spouses, families, parents and children, even fathers and sons. Call it youthful arrogance that came between this father and his son. His father's expectations strangled him. His father's outdated rules irritated him. He couldn't wait to leave, and one day he couldn't wait a minute longer. He packed up his stuff, the stuff that came to him because of his father's generosity, and he left. His father watched him go, wanting to run after him and knowing that he couldn't. You can't make your children's mistakes for them, however much you might want to. He just wanted to be his own person, make his own choices. No harm in that, necessarily. But a string of bad decisions later, and he was farther away from his home and his father than he ever intended to be, ever wanted to be. Home started to sound good again. But how can you go home when by your own irresponsibility, your own bad choices, you've destroyed the only way to go back? How can you go home when you've burned all your bridges? But when you're desperate enough, or hungry enough, or lonely enough, you'll try what seems impossible. And so the son decided to go back home, or at least as close as he could get to home. He'd swallow his pride and he'd go back home on whatever terms his father would allow. So he started back over a bridge that he wasn't sure he'd still be able to cross. But even as he went, rehearsing in his mind all the reasons why he couldn't come home again, his father was there waiting for him. He ran to meet him. There was no recrimination, only celebration. He welcomed his son home. He forgave his son's offenses, and he asked the rest of the family to forgive him as well. That father built a bridge out of grace, mercy, forgiveness. We all need a bridge like that at one point in our lives or the other. We need someone to build a bridge to replace one that we've burnt. Whether we know it or not, there's someone who's done exactly that for us. Through Jesus' death on the cross, God built a bridge for us. He welcomes us home. He rushes to meet us as we cross it. And there's a celebration in His house for every one of His children who comes back to Him. And that's not all. He also builds bridges between people. He makes it possible for us to forgive one another the same way that He's forgiven us. The thing about bridges, though, is that you have to cross them. You have to take a step, a prayer to God, not eloquent, maybe just a cry for help. Maybe that first step is a move toward people who can help. Maybe it's baptism. Sometimes it's to talk to a friend. We need someone to build a bridge to replace one that we've burnt. Whether we know it or not, there's someone who's done exactly that for us. Through Jesus' death on the cross, God built a bridge for us.